Now, just start out here with immigrants. How many of us from another country? Two? Two? So, I did a talk at Stanford about homesickness, and a lot of people came. I didn't realize there were so many people who had come to this. And one woman was talking in the group that she'd come to America, and she and her husband and children had to leave everything behind as if they were just went out for a walk. And just sort of like very quietly, you know, lived there, all their money out, everything, all their gold, everything. Just went to the airport as if they were going to go to vacation to another neighbor country, and came to America. She came here, and you know, people were very helpful. Somebody bought them a bicycle to get around, and that was very nice. But none of them knew how to cycle, because everybody thought, well, you come from a country that uses a lot of bicycles. But this family they never had a bike. None of them knew how to drive. None of them knew how to boil water, because they had servants. So the trauma of just coming and the release of landing, that as opposed to another person who have nothing and comes here and is overwhelmed with the choices that's available, that you can have this profession or that profession, the two. So immigrants, we come from so many backgrounds, and we come, you are the host. It's your country. You're the host. As you know, if you look at this, I know just from Irish immigrants, the United States took in more Irish people than anywhere else, followed by Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. In the 800, whenever America was the first immigration from years, we believe that there's almost 3 or 4 times more that left the country from one pier called, outside Cork. It used to be called Queenstown. The name of it is Cove. It's back to its original name, that people left. And they walked through just a door like this, and then into a small boat, and they were taken out to the large boat to take them to New York or Boston. So this continuation, and they came. So we come here, and we always are a guest. So, you know, we come to somebody's house, we kind of wait for a while till everybody sits. We're sort of used to that, and we'll sit. And sometimes we get the sitting at the head of the table. We don't want to do that. We want to sit sort of where there's less noise, this kind of thing. So what is difficult for us is profiling and stereotyping. It's very difficult because we run away from this very thing. Many of us, we run away from the kind of violence that has happened. Or if it's not violence, it's poverty, enormous poverty. For example, in Ireland, there was no roads, there was no cars. We had a bicycle that we brought from many other different bicycles to make one. It had no tires or tubes. It just had one gear. And just the pedal was a piece of wood that came out. So this would be the bicycle. And sometimes we had no seat. So you had to stand up and just keep standing to pedal. And that was, we were very glad to have something like that. But when we went into the town, we would never take it up through the middle of the town. We would leave it outside the village. Because we didn't want, there was like an enormous amount of embarrassment when you go into the town. Because during the occupation, country people didn't talk to the village people, and the village people didn't talk to the town people didn't talk to the city people. Everybody was spying on everybody, and the more people you turned in, the more privileges you got. So there was still some of this left over from the superstition, kind of social superstition of being seen, poor. Repeating the story is all the time, as if it just happened. So, repeating the story. So, client comes, they give you 5 minutes of their story in the 50 minutes. They come the next time, they give you the first 5 minutes I told you the last time, they add on a little bit. Then the next time it adds on a little bit. It's so important that the story gets told over and over. A lot of it has to do to keep the pain alive of, let's say, who died. If I don't tell you about what happened to my parents, who's going to remember them? To the pain that they have, they don't want to really let it go because the only thing they've known is this kind of pain and suffering, that they never had the privilege. For example, I was driving home one day and I had to go into a supermarket to buy some food. And they had a big box with all kinds of stuff on it for not quite free, but like you could, it was for $1 or something. So I picked 3 or 4 pairs of socks. And then I went up to bed. It was probably the very first time I ever bought more than 1 pair of socks. And I'd been here already about 10 years. Never bought. Never bought a pair of socks for full price, always wait for this. And it was like I was hiding them. And then I go home and I discover I have more than 1 pair of shoes. It's like, this is strange. So that kind of thing, this sort of like carrying on to get over the stuff to fit in takes longer than we realize. Repeating the story, if clients come to you, they only repeat the story first about what's very easy, getting a parking place. The other part, okay, tell me the real goods of why you're here. You have to earn the privilege. You have to earn the privilege of listening to the person a little longer. Because what they want from you is a relationship, you and I, that we can trust one another. Because now you are a doctor, you are the therapist for me, all of my family, everybody that died, and everybody that's yet to be born. You have every immigrant, every relative that comes, we're all going to come to you. Because you are that one person now that I've made inroads to and I trust. And this is what makes the difference between family therapy and individual therapy. And I discover sort of indirectly from a message from one of the grandchildren say, you're wondering like why all of these people, and she's born here, she's grown up here. She said, you're wondering why all this, grandfather and grandmother makes the decision and we just go along with it, even though we have left the house. And I kind of went along and never made any comment, just went along with the story. It has developed this very rich opening in that. What are they starting to talk about? All the people that they have left behind, who's going to take care of the grave, who's going to memory, how I should be visiting the grave so many times, and this and this and this, So, like one woman in Russia, she said, okay, I can go live in Germany. I can go live in Israel, but who's going to take care of my husband's grave? So this part about coming to repeat the story is a very important part. But sometimes, like let's say for the United States, where how immigrants sometimes have to deal with. I applied what was called immigrant visa. I had no education. I quit school after elementary school. I just went to work for farmers. I went around the country for other farmers, and I was able to find water, you know, with that gadget, what was called the wooden stick, the stick of wood or something. And I got a job with another guy sinking wells for farmers. And then I was about 16. I take the boat to England. Many of us went to England. We earned enough money there to get the ship, to get the money for the ship to come over. We just want to get on the ship. We don't care. We just, when we get there, we don't think about who's going to greet us. We're so just glad to get away. We're not looking forward to where we're going. We are looking at, we're getting away from something. Does it see what I mean? Like, you know, when you go on a vacation, oh, I can't wait to get to Florida and in the beautiful beaches, you know. Immigrant is like a different. They are leaving behind, they're running away from something. We're all running away. We're not looking forward to what it's going to be like in the end. We don't really care what it's going to be like when we get off the boat, because we're away from what we left from. So these are, do any of you know about what people have to go through to get to be a refugee and asylum? You know, when you had clients that, and you've written letters for them? Have you? Yeah. So we in mental health have a huge impact if clients to write some letter about, or like at Stanford, if an employee is there and they have a visa for 2 years and their mother is sick in China or dies and they need to go back. But if they go back, that could change their visa and they may not be able to return. So if we write a letter for grief, grief is one of those things that when you, it's not quite a diagnosis, but when you say that in the immigration letter, immigration is more inclined to give them the freedom, to give them a pass to go back for so many days. If it's a student, immigrant student, we have immigrant students who have, it goes from September to June. They don't have that privilege. If they leave the classroom and don't turn up for so many days, their visa could be in trouble. So that becomes real difficult for students who are foreigners when they need to go back. So they fit in like in a different category, you know. Even though they're already like sort of independent, it's the visa that comes. So we in mental health can do a lot for these people. So if they ask you for a letter, or if you know somebody, or you're certainly welcome to give me a call, if about helping how to put a letter together so they can take it to the immigration office. I have really helped so many people like that who come here. There's a sickness at home, people from the Philippines. There's so many nurses at Stanford who were brought over from the Philippines for nurses that, you know, now like their parents getting older, and it's very important in the Philippine culture that you return to bury the parent. It's also in Ireland, and I didn't go back. Ooh, am I on a bad list? It's like forever. You just like, it's not a good thing. So this whole, you know, like cultural, we're all really that. I was just reading in the paper last week, the Chronicle had this thing about DNA, how we all came out of Africa. Did you see that map? And some went towards Portugal, others went to the Siberia section, and others came up the center into Middle East. And I thought, wow, like we are all related, you know, from the DNA. It was just, it was a Saturday's paper, I think. No, Friday, yeah, Friday's paper last week in the Chronicle, if you want. It was a great story about the DNA of the movements of where our ancestors come, where we come from. So this is sort of like the green card. You know what green card means if somebody says that? You can stay in the country for as long as you want. If you go back to visit, if you're going to stay longer than 365 days, you have to get permission to stay longer than that. And then work visa, there's a thing called work visa. There's hundreds of kinds of work visas. None of them are the same. So we as working in mental health can be very helpful to this if they need to go back, you know, or if they need an extension, they want to go back for 2 years because they're the only one that can take care of the parent and they're dying, they're the only child. You can put a letter together, and immigration will follow that, because there is this thing called. Somebody told me that when we use the word grief, it's very different than use the word depression, or use the word, well, I don't know, what are the others? You know, adjustment disorder and all these other things we use, you know. But grief is a universal kind of thing. Everybody knows what it is. We've all been there, you know. And so I want to mention that to you because we can be very helpful to many people. Not just people, immigrants, but people who come from other parts of the country that need to go back to put. Don't be afraid to write a letter for them that they can take to their boss. The thing I always say is make sure that you go through a release form and protect confidentiality. And if that letter doesn't become a part of their file, that they just go to the boss and the boss can read it and give it back. You know what I mean? So it doesn't become anything. So those are the kind of things you want to mention.